Hello, and a very warm welcome to She the People. In our new series, Invest Her, in partnership with BSE Investors Protection Fund, we talk about personal finance. We try and bring more clarity on important financial concepts and help women be independent decision makers when it comes to the matters of money. It is my pleasure to welcome Kiran Telang, a certified financial planner registered as an investment advisor with SEBI. Kiran, as I always mention, is actually quite a rock star. She works with clients across India and overseas and helps them in making smart investment decisions and simplifying their financial lives. Thank you for joining us, Kiran. Thank you always for taking out time for us.
It's an absolute pleasure, Mughda. I'm very happy to be here sharing my views.
Subject of our webinar today is goal-based planning, Kiran. And I first invite you to share your thoughts on the subject, and then we can ask some questions. And I also request our audience to keep a pen and paper ready. If they have their questions, they also punch in their questions. They want to take, they can all do that. Over to you, Kiran.
Thanks, Mughda. A very warm welcome to all the attendees today. We'll start with a small presentation to get the gist of the subject that we are going to talk about today. So the topic today is goal-based financial planning. So while it seems pretty simple, but how do we actually go about doing it? What is it? What are the nuances of goal-based financial planning? Let's just go through the presentation. So, typically in any individual's life, there could be several financial goals. Some of the goals are pretty typical, like buying a house or keeping money aside for education of children, especially higher education if you want to send the kids abroad or things like that, which need a lot of money. In our culture, we also support the marriage of the children by taking care of all the expenses, and then of course there is retirement. So these are typical goals in any lifestyle. Apart from that, there is your lifestyle that you would like to support. So initially, when it's early part of your career, usually we start at a very basic lifestyle, and then probably we go up as the income increases. Another important aspect in the financial goals would be healthcare, because healthcare is becoming expensive, and there are various ways in which you can take care of the expenses if you have to spend anything on healthcare. Then there could be elder care and support. So typically in our culture, we are responsible of taking care of our parents in their old age. So the expenses related to that also could be a part of the financial goals. And there is travel. So Indians are avid travelers, and we go across the world and see places. So travel could be another financial goal. Apart from this, there could be other goals which we normally don't think of. So one could be philanthropy. So if you want to give money to the society for various causes, you could build it up in your financial goals as well. People would also want to have financial security and financial independence. There could be a need to take a sabbatical. Now, sabbatical can be various reasons. I mean, you could want a sabbatical for yourself. If you've been, very stressed by work, you would want to take a sabbatical to just take a breather. Or you could be taking a sabbatical for higher education, or taking care of any elders who are not keeping well, or maternity. So for women, it is more of maternity leave kind of a thing, and extended sabbatical after that. So there could be various reasons. So how do you support yourself financially during those months when you're on a sabbatical? That could be a financial goal. People dream of starting their own business venture, and how do you prepare yourself for that? So that initial part of your career, you can keep that as a goal, and start preparing for that right from the word go. There could be extended family who need your help in terms of financial support. There could be families that have special needs children. So there also financial support becomes very important within the lifetime of the parents and beyond that. And there could be long term health expenses. If there is an illness running in the family which needs continuous expenses, we need to be prepared for it, because in our country, we don't have any long term health insurance plans that are available that will take care of any ongoing health expenses for the lifetime. So these are some of the atypical goals that are there. So depending on your personal financial situation, your life situation, you can decide what your financial goals are and what is important to you. Once we have actually decided, we understand what the financial goals are. how do we actually identify those goals in terms of importance, or what is the time frame? So typically two segmentations happen. One is based on time, where it could be long term goals, say for example retirement. That could be a long term goal for somebody who's just entering their career. A medium term goal could be buying a house. So maybe when you're starting your career, it could be 5 or 7 years down the line where you plan to buy your own house, or if you're upgrading to a better property, then that could again be a medium term goal. Short term goals could be going on vacations, or buying a vehicle, or things like that. And there could be ongoing goals which are there, like we were speaking about philanthropy. So if you want to do something every year on an ongoing basis, that could be a ongoing goal. uh, Importance again, high priority, medium priority, low priority. Something could be absolutely it cannot be compromised. So for example, if you have to send your child for higher education, there is a fixed timeline for that, and that is usually a high priority goal. Vis-a-vis upgrading your house, that could be a good to have thing. So if it happens, fine. If it doesn't, it's all right. So it depends in your life what you give importance to. Based on that, then you can prioritize your goals. Now, how do we actually go about goal based financial planning? So, the first step obviously would be to identify the goals. So, you have to decide that what are your life goals. We spoke about typical life goals, which most people would have, and there could be atypical life goals, which are specific to your situation. So, identify what are those goals, identify what is more important to you amongst those. So, prioritization basically. Prioritization also becomes important because once we put a number to those goals, because most of these goals will require money. So if you're estimating the cost of the goals, you also need to prioritize what is important, right? So whatever is higher priority, you will allocate more money to that in the initial stages, and whatever is low priority will come at a later stage. You need to define the timelines, at least on a broad framework. So if we talk about buying a house, that is not a hardcore deadline that you have vis-a-vis your education goal for your kids or even for yourself. So there could be defined timelines of specific goals, and there could be broader timelines for other goals. Once you have done this, then you set up a plan to achieve the goals. Now, what does this plan entail? One, you will look at where you stand today. How much have you achieved today? And what is the gap? So, how do you fill that gap? So, there could be financial products that come in. There could be corrections that need to be made. So, there is something which you've already got into, but that is not suitable to meet your goals. So, then you pull out your funds from that particular instrument and target it towards what is more suitable to your achievement of your goals. And very important, what is the plan B? So what if things go wrong? Because we are talking about many years into the future for lot many goals. So what if things don't plan out as what we have put on the excel sheets that we do? There could be interest rates which go awry. We don't know how they will go. There could be inflation that is playing havoc. So there could be various situations. Even your life situations could be very drastically different from what you imagine it to be. So what is the plan B? So there, it's always better to have something in the side that, okay, if this doesn't work, this is what we'll try and do. So that is also a part of the goal-based financial planning. Once you do this goal-based financial planning, there are a lot many benefits. Typically what happens is when we have money and we talk about investing, we prioritize our expenses today, and we tend to kind of put things on the back burner which are very long term. So if I talk to somebody who's in the late 20s about retirement, they will probably not give it the same amount of importance as a 40-year-old will probably give. So a lot of times we do not focus on things that really matter, because it will make a huge difference if a 20-year-old is saving for retirement vis-a-vis a 40-year-old saving for retirement. So you once you plan your goals and you do a goal-based planning, you have better focus on things that will actually matter to you in life. And because of that, once your focus is clear, you will have a higher discipline in saving and investing. You will be highly motivated because you know your money is getting towards a particular goal, and that is going to give you a better future. So you'll be highly motivated to actually act on the plan. And of course, if you are doing things in a disciplined manner, you will be having a higher possibility of achieving those goals. And when this is happening, there is peace of mind. So whatever you are spending after that, it will be absolutely guilt free. Otherwise, when you have higher spends, you always have this nagging feeling at the back of your mind that, oh, am I doing right or wrong? So once you know that you've done enough towards your goals and you're going to have a good future, your spending also becomes guilt free. So it is a great thing to do goal based financial planning. So that was my small presentation, and I think we can take on the discussion from here, Mugdha.
Wonderful. I think this was such a comprehensive presentation, Kiran, which already answers a lot of my questions. But we will go a little into the details of each element that you mentioned in your presentation as well. But first, I have to ask you this question that, a lot of times there are people who say there is comprehensive financial planning and then there is goal based financial planning. And some of the people who do not believe so much in goal based planning say that it is like putting the cart before the horse, because the client here shouldn't be setting the goals to pursue until they understand what are the possibilities in the first place. Having said that, I do realize that goal based planning is more disciplined. What is your opinion on this?
Well, I would describe it this way that both are good. It depends on what you are ready for. Because at each juncture in life, we are ready for different things. So, when we talk about goal based planning, it's very simple. You know, you have, say, X goal of accumulating, say, 10 lakh rupees for a particular reason, and you put your money into that and you reach there. So, it is very, very simple to understand. When we talk about comprehensive planning, it goes much deeper. So it'll also look at the impact of one decision vis-a-vis the other. So the commonest thing that I've seen is what happens if I spend X amount on my child's education? How is it going to impact my retirement? So you know all the goals are actually interlinked because eventually, whatever you're saving for various goals, it's a pot of money, right? And money is fungible whether you spend it on A or you spend it on B. So in a comprehensive financial plan, what we also look at is how each decision of spending at a particular place is going to impact the other decision and what can you do about it. So what will be more suitable in your life circumstances. You also spoke about possibilities, so definitely the possibilities come into play when we are looking at the entire picture together, where vis-a-vis in a goal based plan what happens is we look at individual goals. So all the time there won't be intermingling of these things and we will not get the full picture. So in that manner probably comprehensive becomes a more in-depth way of planning your finances vis-a-vis a goal based planning. But goal based planning is much higher than just doing ad hoc investing, or not doing anything at all. So definitely you go up the ladder and you reach goal based, and then if you're ready you can go for comprehensive plan as well.
Great. Uh, the first slide of your presentation spoke about the several financial goals and the different kind of financial goals that people can have. Does the kind of planning change for each one of them? By the way, the two goals that really caught my attention were philanthropy and taking a sabbatical, perhaps. What a brilliant two elements to sort of include in your financial plans, because I think there is philanthropy makes so much sense, giving back to the society, and always keeping some time off for that sabbatical, a planned sabbatical where you might want to take a break or you may want to study further and hone your skills, etc. So great advice on that, on those two. But yes, question: does the kind of planning change according to the financial goals, and how?
Yes, so financial goals will have different kind of planning. So something which is a short-term goal will obviously have a different kind of plan that is required. It will also depend on what kind of person you are, whether you're risk averse or you're an aggressive investor, conservative investor. So all those things come together to actually, create a goal-based financial plan. So for each plan, say when we are talking about sabbatical, so sabbatical can be planned in the initial career. Say if you're talking about women starting off their career and they are looking at a maternity sabbatical, so we could probably plan it much beforehand because you will have 4 5 years before you actually take that sabbatical and you know you're going to take it. So if you have decided that way, so we can plan it accordingly. For other goals like say long-term retirement goals, so if you have 30 years in hand, there could be many more breaks in between if you need that. Ideally, there shouldn't be, but if you need, there could be a lot more flexibility in longer term goals. So of course, there'll be a different planning for each kind of goal.
Kiran, how does one prioritize goals?
Oh,
Because
that's a
when
tough
I saw
question.
that list, I was like, "Sab karna hai mujhko. ये भी चाहिए,
Yeah.
ये भी चाहिए, ये भी चाहिए, ये भी चाहिए." So, so how does one get to prioritize it? Tough
Yeah,
one.
so see, it's always, your resources always fall short of what you want to do in life, whether you are earning 1 lakh or you're earning 10 lakhs. So your wants keep on increasing, whereas, your resources probably don't keep up with the list of wants that keeps on increasing. I would say prioritizing becomes simpler if you know what you want in life. That's why I said it's a tough decision. So what you want in life changes. So what you want when you're starting your career is very different from what you want at 40. So prioritize according to where you are today. It's very difficult to say that what you will be 10 years or 20 years down the line and your requirements will change. So to actually put it in practice, you can probably divide it into responsibilities and dreams. So responsibilities is something that you have to do, and dreams is something that you would want to do. So once your responsibilities are done, you can look at your dreams. That could be one way of doing it.
That's a brilliant advice because, a lot of times dreams you still can sort of push in different buckets, but responsibilities are something very simple to identify, right?
True.
And dreams also keep changing with times, but responsibilities are something that one needs to sort of be aware of and plan ahead in time. And I think one of the things that you really mentioned in case of sabbatical was when women take that maternity break. I think that's such an important place to be at, because if you feel that, all right, if you feel that, if I'm going to take a break and if I'm going to lose making that money, it'll always play in your mind, because a lot of women we have seen, also push pregnancy, and they also push starting a family, thinking that no, I have to reach some place in my career, I have to reach somewhere financially before I start a family, because then again that will involve so much responsibility whether I can go back to work or not. So I think that also I thought was a brilliant thing, because in case of women I think गोल प्लानिंग में लाइफ की बायोलॉजिकल क्लॉक के हिसाब से भी चीजें जो हैं हम बहुत अच्छे से प्लान कर सकते हैं. And that takes me to the other question: retirement planning. Is it advisable to start retirement planning in some way or the other as soon as you start your goal planning? um, a lot of people feel
Yeah, so
retirement चलो थोड़े दिन बाद
exactly.
करेंगे.
Yeah. रिटायरमेंट बहुत मतलब बूढ़े वाली बात हो जाती है, सो समबडी यंग वुड नॉट वांट टू
Hmm.
थिंक ऑफ रिटायरमेंट प्लानिंग, बट बात ऐसी होती है कि रिटायरमेंट इज द बिगेस्ट गोल ऑफ योर लाइफ. सी बिकॉज इफ यू थिंक लॉजिकली, आप 30 से 60 तक काम कर रहे हैं और आप 60 से 90 तक जिएंगे जब आपकी कोई इनकम नहीं होगी, unless you are in a profession or a career which allows you to work beyond 60, and you'll be physically and mentally capable of working and earning at that phase of your life as well. We see Mr. Bachchan still working when he's close to 80. So not all of us are lucky or skilled enough to be, at a place where we make that kind of money at that age. So you have to be prepared to have a source of income beyond 60, which I'm assuming is the retirement age, in such a manner that you live your lifestyle. I mean, you don't have to compromise. So to meet those 30 years of income from your 30 years of work life, you need to start early. The earlier you start, the easier it will be for you. So if you even start with a small amount when you're say 25 or 27, when you're starting your career initial phase, that amount will really add to it, because see, what is more important is that you have a long runway in front of you when you're young. So it allows your money to compound, and compounding creates wonders. So more than the amount that you're putting in, the compounding plays a very important role. If you delay further, if you are say at the age of 35, 40, 45, if you start planning, your initial investment required will be much higher. So if you've started at an initial age, say even a 5,000 or 10,000 monthly savings specifically towards retirement is going to create a huge difference in the end corpus that you make at retirement. And if you have a larger corpus in your retired years, you will be more comfortable. You will have the option to take lower risk on your investments to meet your requirements. So all those benefits add up. So if you start earlier, definitely it is much, much better. And I would also like to
We
add that
also.
in case of
Hmm.
women, what happens is we tend to have many more breaks in our career. So as we were speaking about maternity, so there could be a sabbatical,
Yeah.
elder care. We still, most women take a break if there is a need in the family to take a break. So in that scenario, the corpus that we create is going to be much smaller. So why not start earlier towards that, long-term goal? It makes life much easier.
One of the things that also people do not plan for but must is an emergency fund. How can we make emergency fund part of our goal-based planning? And ideally, uh, for a layman, it'll be very difficult to sort of calculate how much money should be put. And I think a financial advisor is the right person to guide how much should your contingency fund be. But I think in today's time and age, COVID किसने देखा था? Uh, we are living in such volatile times that an emergency fund also has become such a huge part of goal-based planning.
Absolutely. I think it would be one of the first goals if you've not started, if you're at the, just the initial phase. I think emergency fund is what we start with usually, because if you don't have emergency fund in place, all your other investments that you make for your goals will be at risk. If you build up, say, something for buying a house and you don't have an emergency fund, and if there is actually an emergency that comes up in terms of loss of job or ill health in the family, you will need to dip into that corpus. And if we are invested in equity and the markets are not doing well, you will actually have to withdraw your money at a loss. So to avoid such situations where you actually have to dip into your long term goals, we always start with creating an emergency fund, which is the first step of risk management. So first you cover your risks and then you go towards investment. Emergency fund is the first step of risk management.
Of course, any kind of growth, any kind of planning that you do get affected by markets and changing times. How does a financial planner help in this scenario?
Uh, See, markets are something that will keep changing. I mean, that's the nature of market. I mean, if you're talking about equity markets, they are volatile. There is volatility in debt markets also, but in a different manner. So when a portfolio is created, when you are looking at a particular goal, you look at the time frame of that particular goal and you select suitable products. So if you're talking about a 3 year time frame, I will not touch equity for that particular goal. I would rather put the money into debt products. It could be fixed deposits or it could be recurring deposits, which are simplest products. So if you are not in the highest tax brackets, probably those bank products make sense. If you are in a higher tax bracket, probably debt mutual fund will make more sense because it's more tax efficient. If you're talking about a product, for retirement planning, definitely equity makes sense if you are maybe 10 years or plus away from your retirement. So then equity is going to be the choice product. So irrespective of the market volatility, if you choose the correct asset class for your goal, you should be in a good position to achieve your goal. And of course there is a review which happens, so you keep on monitoring. So once a year, it's not that आप रोज खोल के देख रहे हैं अपना कि मेरे कितनी वैल्यू है क्या हुआ है. If you do that, you will only get more anxious, because आप रोज देख रहे हैं मार्केट ऊपर नीचे हो रहा है, वॉलेटिलिटी है, तो you will get anxiety. So avoid doing that. Do a review maybe once a year or once in 6 months, depending on what your corpus size is and how far is your goal. That should be good enough.
I think it is such a brilliant idea to introduce goal-based planning for children as well. Like once you start as a habit, a lot of times women tend to think that my husband is responsible, or our financial needs, right? And but it is so important to inculcate within that kharchi you get, or within the money that you make, even if you are, say, secondary bread earner in the house, even if you make a little money in comparison, I think goal-based planning helps you get a perspective on how that can be multiplied, how you can stay disciplined, how can you avoid spending unnecessarily, because at least you have something that you want and you are saving towards it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. So, even if we talk about homemakers, who might not have their own source of income and are getting something from their spouse to run the household, I think they play a very important role, because all of your wealth creation starts from the surplus that you're generating from whatever income you have, from income of one person or four people in the family. So creating that surplus to a large extent depends on what are your expenses. And as a homemaker, you can actually control the budget and ensure that there is a surplus left at the end of the month to create wealth in the family. So it could be a small amount. Over a time, it will build up into larger amounts. And depending on your skill, you can also get involved in managing the tax returns and things like that. If you're a homemaker, you would have time on your hands. You will have a better picture of what your family owns, what is the loans, things like that, and you will play a very critical role in creating wealth for the family.
Let's switch to some questions, Kiran. We have a few of them. Let's take the first one. Right. Bhavna Bisht is asking, what key goals do you recommend a person should build if she has just started investing this year? Great question, Bhavna. A lot of times we tend to get confused, but yeah, if you've just started earning, what should you be concentrating on? What should you must have?
Yeah, Bhavna, that's a nice question. I think a lot of youngsters who've just started working would be thinking in those directions. It's very confusing. So think of it this way: that what would you want to do in the next few years? At least that would be clear in your mind. You probably are not yet clear about your long term life goals. But in the next 2 3 years, are you wanting to go for higher education? Would you like to save a little bit for that? Would you want to go on a vacation with your friends? Would you like to save for that, or would you want to save for your own marriage? So those could be some near-term goals, which would happen in the next maybe 3 to 5 years. So probably you can think in those terms. And we also spoke about the emergency fund. So depending on your family situation, uh, imagine if a emergency hits, how will you manage that period? So would you want to save something for emergency? That could be another way to look at it.
All right, let's look at question number two. Ritika Joshi is asking, what happens when you achieve your shorter term goals? Should you increase your goal or stick to what works?
Okay. So
Interesting.
Ritika, if I understand your question, let me just put it in an example. So you wanted to save, say, 5 lakhs for a vacation, and you've already achieved that goal, and your vacation is still maybe a couple of years down the line. So what do you do? So this is the perspective that I'm taking before answering the question. So if your goal is met, you move it to a place where the value of the goal is protected. So if you have, say, for a longer period of time, if you've saved for your child's education and you have achieved the goal much before time, move it to a product which is less volatile. So if you've been in equity, move it to a debt fund or move it to a fixed deposit so that that value doesn't go down, irrespective of the changes in the market. And then obviously the money that you were putting into that investment can be redirected towards other goals. So goal A is met, now the money goes to goal B or goal C, whichever is having a shortfall. Or when we were discussing about responsibilities and dreams, you can start on your dreams list.
Yeah, that's true. Once that is done, the next list can be referred to. All right. Deepshika Chakravarti is asking, how do we keep increasing contribution uh, in the emergency fund as the earning increase? Okay, perhaps, right?
Yeah, Deepshika, see, more or less, emergency fund is a fixed amount that we are looking at. So, you should ideally identify the amount by looking at what could go wrong and how long you think that you will need that money. So, in case of, careers where there is a chance of losing a job which is much higher, like whatever industry, vis-a-vis a government job, where there is no chance of, a job loss happening at a very short notice. So in those scenarios, you will need to identify that if I don't have a job for next 6 months or 1 year, how am I going to run my expenses? So what are the expenses that I'll need to meet? So once you identify that, we now suggest at least a year worth of expenses to be kept in emergency fund, because we saw what happened in COVID. So it could be a longish period where you will have need of that money. So that amount is more or less fixed, and in case it is utilized at any point in time, then you replenish. Otherwise, you need not constantly increase your contribution towards building an emergency fund on an ongoing basis.
One question that I have, Kiran, it is related with investments. And multiplying your money should also be part of your goal planning, right? That this is
Absolutely.
the money I have and this is the money I want to reach at, right? Other than contingency and things like so. Um, uh, what would your advice be to somebody, even if they are making lesser money, but they should do something to multiply that money, right?
Right. So, multiplying money or wealth creation is definitely a great goal to have. I think there are two key aspects to it. One is how much are you able to save and invest, and second, where are you investing? So, how much are you going to save and invest is entirely up to you. So, that is when we were talking about the cash flow when we discussed the housewives thing, So, you have a control over how much you're spending, so you have a larger surplus. So, that is entirely your work. So, increase your surplus, that is one. Second is choose an appropriate asset class. If you're talking about wealth creation in the long run, definitely you should look at equities. So, either direct equity investing, that is buying stocks, or equity mutual funds. I mean, these could be very good options to create a wealth. Also, another aspect of it is don't get lured away by easy money. There could be things which promise to double your money very soon, but those are red flags. It doesn't happen. Money needs time to grow. Choose asset classes which are well defined, which have been around for many, many years, and they are kind of under the regulations. So, unregulated products which promise to double your money, be wary of those, because people lose more money by making mistakes than they are able to actually generate over many, many years. So avoid those large mistakes, be disciplined, and invest in the right asset classes.
Okay, we have one more question. And a quick reminder to everybody, please write in your questions. All right, Mamta is asking, hi, what should be the criteria for choosing a financial planner?
Okay,
Good
great
one.
question, Mamta. Yeah, that's a really good question. So I would say there are two things. One is integrity, and second is competence. So these are the two key aspects. So integrity, obviously, it will be a little difficult to judge. It's a very subjective thing, but it could be, if you're going to a financial planner through any referrals, or you speak to a financial planner, and if you're good at reading non-verbal cues, and you how do you feel about that planner? So that could be a way to check integrity. You can also check, obviously, the credentials of the planner, whether they are registered, whether they are qualified. So that could be one way. Competence, obviously, I mean, it has to be the education portion. You have to see what kind of education the financial planner has got, what is the kind of experience that is there, what kind of clients they are dealing with. Is your situation something which they will be able to handle? Because there are different planners who might be specifically looking at certain segments of the society, or certain specific requirements that people may have. So is your situation something that the planner will be able to handle? So I think these are the few points that you can look at. You can speak to a few people. There are many, many good planners in the market, and you can see whom you gel with more, because it's very important that you are in on the same page with your planner, because otherwise you will not be able to trust the planner and take your financial plan forward.
Taking the thought forward, Kiran, from what Mamta asked about choosing a financial planner, and of course, the importance of having a financial planner then in your life, what are some of the classic uh, problems or mistakes that people make while goal based planning, while making their goals, right? And because I'm sure that must come up also, where you think you are doing the right thing, but because you're not being advised properly, or you don't have enough knowledge. But what are some of the classic mistakes people make?
Mugda, what I've seen is there are mistakes on both sides. You underestimate what is possible, and you overestimate what is possible. So that itself will
Uh-huh.
create a lot of issues. So there could be cases where people have taken up a lot of loans, and there isn't any surplus left to create wealth. So those loans might not be actually, helping you to reach where you want to. There could be loans for white goods. There could be loans for depreciating assets like vehicles. So they're not actually, helping you create assets. So if you've taken a home loan, probably that is at least giving you a place to live, so you save on the rent. So there are good loans and bad loans. We had that discussion in an earlier episode.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Putting money into things which are not really taking you in the direction that you want to go in, that could be a big, big mistake. So a lot of times we had to cull out loans where people had unwanted loans or things that were hampering their growth. So that has to be culled out. Second, the other side of it is that there is great amount of income, There are a lot of supporting factors like people who have inherited houses, so they don't really have to invest in a house. So there is a lot of surplus left to invest. But because there is ignorance or there is financial illiteracy, uh, inefficient products are being chosen. So they could create much more wealth out of what they have and their current situation, but they're not utilizing that. So it's mistakes on both sides. So we have to look at both and advise as to what is suitable to the requirement of a particular individual.
I think one of the things which we keep harping on in every session is how important is guidance, how important is that mentoring and getting advice from a financial planner. Because, as you rightly said, sometimes you think you are making the right decisions, but there are so many things that are available in the market. There's so many schemes that are available, which for a layman, if you do not have an interest, you'll never find about, right? There are schemes for women. There are so many things that you may not be aware of and someone else is, or about even the liabilities. Like, I mean, something that comes to my mind, which you just mentioned, is the property gains tax. Now, if
Hmm.
you do not plan it correctly without somebody's help, of course, you end up paying more money than you should be paying.
Absolutely. So I would say that if you know the story of the four blind men and the elephant, so people usually are in that phase, that they think that financial planning is something which they're doing already. Say maybe they bought insurance policies or they have certain schemes where they're investing or they're doing tax saving. But that is not it. A financial plan gives you a bigger picture. So instead of having bits and pieces, you know that's an elephant. It's not a rope or a wall or a pillar. So giving you the whole picture and how various elements interact with each other, I think is a better way to do it. So that is what the guidance does. Apart from obviously the behavioral changes that we bring about, and hand holding in difficult times where decisions can be made very incorrectly based on what is happening currently in the environment.
Thank you, Kiran. Thank you for always giving us the insight and for all the wonderful takeaways that we take back with us whenever we are listening to you on Investor. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Mukta. It was an absolute pleasure.
And thank you all for being such a wonderful audience. You were watching She the People's new series, Investor, in partnership with BSE Investors Protection Fund, where we always tell you about personal finance, how to be financially independent, but also with the right kind of guidance. So, always, whenever you are in any kind of a flux, please contact your financial advisor, take their advice, and invest right. Thank you for joining us this evening. Bye bye.